What is up, guys? In today's video, we are going to be reacting to a video made by Reis about the problems with Fortnite's ranked mode. So the Fortnite ranked mode came out a week or two ago, I think. Probably maybe 3 weeks at this point. I don't even know. My perception of time is terrible. I play Fortnite all day. But
PurgeJD.
there are a lot of problems with the ranked mode. Some of them, you know, it's season 0, so it's kind of to be expected. But also some of them, like, even though it is season 0, like, they definitely should have known that some of these problems would arise. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. If you do enjoy this, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below what you think of Fortnite's ranked mode.
PurgeJD has made it to Unreal, the highest rank in Fortnite's new ranked mode. It only took him around 2 days, and he didn't play with any professionals, predominantly just playing with other content creator friends like CypherPK. Now, I love Courage, but come on, the highest rank, combine it with the fact that he's playing with Legion, someone who literally cannot build, who also got to Unreal, and there are clearly some issues here. But it being incredibly easy to get to Unreal isn't the only issue. The first for me is that there's only 2 different ranks, so you can either play Battle Royale, which is the regular.
So it's like a kind of, you know, toxic, funny way to start the video that, like, Unreal is too easy to get because Courage got it. But the point does stand to an extent. Like, if you guys are familiar with Courage's content, he doesn't really grind Fortnite builds like that anymore, you know? And I said this before the game mode dropped. Like, if the ranked system is actually good, I should not be able to get to Unreal. Like, I am a content creator. I am not a pro player. But the fact that everybody is able to get to Unreal if they play enough, basically, is a problem with the ranked mode, and it's a problem that Fortnite's arena mode had in the past as well. Like, everyone was going to be able to get to champs, so it's just basically a time commitment type thing. I think in a lot of games that have good ranking systems, it's very hard to get to them, and that makes it like somewhat of an accomplishment, you know? Whereas like this ranked system is more of like a participation trophy type thing.
Their building mode, or you can just play the zero build mode. If you choose to play the build option, there's solos, duos, and squads. And if you decide to play these,
and also, I hate pausing it too much, but the first few days it was broken. So I believe it came out on a Wednesday because the update got delayed. It was going to come out on Tuesday, and then they delayed it by a day, and then it came out on Wednesday. Pretty much all of Wednesday, the queues were broken. It was just like impossible to find a game if you were in a high rank. And then later on, Wednesday evening, they kind of loosened up the matchmaking to an extent. That way people could get queues, but it was incredibly loose to the point where everybody was hitting Unreal incredibly fast, and it wasn't a ranked match at all. So like he said, like Courage hit it within the first 2 days. He got it when it was like slightly sweatier than pubs maybe, but I was watching a streamer. It was one of the first players to get to Unreal. They were in Champion. They ended up and their teammate was in Champion as well. And they ended up fighting one of their mods who was Gold 1, and their mod's teammate was Gold 1 as well. Like, the first few days, the matchmaking was just way too easy, and that made a lot of people get Unreal incredibly fast as well.
Zero build option, you can only play zero build duos. Now, my main concern here is that if you're going to play the build mode, it's very, very easy to get rank up by playing squads or even duos if you play with a moderately good player. However, solos is very, very difficult to rank up to Unreal, and it actually feels like a true challenge. Now, for professional players, it's very, very easy to play solos and get up to Unreal, but for players like myself, it's become very difficult to make an attempt to, and that's actually going to be a video I'll try to do next season when the new season drops. But there seems to be a massive disparity between the ranking systems in solos, duos, and then squads, and things like PurgeJD getting to Unreal are a result of that easier transition when it comes to squads gameplay. So for me, I would like to see
that
these
and what I was
separate
talking about
ranks.
before.
Your solo rank, your duo rank, and your squad rank. This is
I 100% agree with that. Like, I feel like, you know, we can all agree that like solos is harder than squads for most people, or just like the average level of players you'll encounter in solos is a little bit higher.
Actually true, since ranked mode is going to be what qualifies you for tournaments. So for specific solo tournaments, I think you shouldn't be able to be carried in squads by a bunch of good players up to a higher rank to give you entry to a tournament. You should just be good enough in that specific solo ranked mode to be able.
And then that's another good point as well. Like, to participate in the tournaments, you need to reach a certain rank, and having somebody, they do that so that the tournament games are just like of a high quality from the get-go, and you don't have people just W keying their first few games and then qualling off that. It doesn't always work. Like, even in opens, there's not always like the most stacked games, but that's the idea behind it. So like having someone get carried in squads being able to play a solo comp game doesn't really make much sense. And then I feel like also when we talk about why it should be hard to reach certain ranks, the point of the competitive game mode should be to have high quality, like difficult games, right? And when it's easy for everybody to reach the high ranks, then the difficulty and the quality of matches decreases. That's why like it might be like some people see it as rude to be like everyone shouldn't be able to hit Unreal. But like I said myself, I don't think I should be able to hit Unreal. I'm not someone that's going to grind ranked. I'm like not a pro player. I'm a content creator. And yeah, that is the reason. Like, so the games are high quality.
To qualify for those cups, which we'll come back to when it comes to FNCS a little bit later. And the main issue I have with this is that you can't D-rank from Unreal. So if you played any of the lower ranks, you'll know that you can go up or you can go down if you play badly. But once you get into the top rank, which is Unreal, you can't
I haven't touched ranked since I hit Unreal, except for spectating videos. The only time I played ranked since I got Unreal is to die off spawn and watch people play the game.
rank out of that by any means. If you play awful, die off spawn, 50 games in a row, you're still going to be Unreal.
That creates a lot of the problems that we'll get to later on in the video.
But you're just going to go to the bottom of the Unreal leaderboard. And the result of that, as of recording, is there's currently 8,320 people in Unreal worldwide. But if you look at the distribution of players throughout the other ranks, something's clearly off. You can see there's a small peak where it says Unreal, and Elite and Champion have almost no players playing in it, having 2.
It's gotten worse since this video was made. Pretty much at this point, he's showing the build one right now. This is a 0 build one. So like Diamond 1 is like the highest people go, and then Unreal. And so nobody D-ranks out of Unreal and repopulates these ranks. So once you're Diamond 1 or higher, it's pretty hard to get a game. And Diamond 1 isn't even like that ridiculous of a rank. And then also what happens, since you can't D-rank and you don't have people repopulating these ranks, you also have a lot of people that get Unreal and then quit playing the game, like myself. I played it, I got Unreal, and then that was it. And then currently there's 700,000 people who have played 0 build ranked. We'll get to that later on in the video.
2,079 in Elite and 1,292 in Champion. And essentially what this means is these Elite and Champion players have at some point gotten into the Unreal rank, and because they can't D-rank, there's essentially no one going into the Elite and Champion ranks, making them significantly rarer than seeing someone who's actually in Unreal. Now, the way I would like to do this would be a certain amount of people in each of these 3 ranks once you passed Diamond 3. There's roughly 10,000 people worldwide in Unreal, Champion, and Elite when you combine them together. So say you had 500 people in Unreal, say 3,000 people get to Champion, and then 6,500 are in Elite. And what was
this? That would be a great system, I think. It would make getting Unreal very hard. I believe this is how Apex is. I never really played Apex, but I follow some people that are Apex streamers, and I think it's top X amount of people get pred. So if you're Champion and you want to get to Unreal, not only do you have to play good to get to that, but you have to play better than somebody else who is currently in Unreal and basically take their spot. And that not only would make it an accomplishment to hit Unreal, and it would be like exciting, it would also make the games very high quality, because the people who are in Unreal don't want to get kicked out. The people that are in Elite want to take somebody in Champion spot, and the people that are in Champion want to take somebody who's on Unreal spot. Whereas how the ranking system is now, for a lot of people, it's just, I'm going to play this until I get to Unreal.
Say 3,000 people get to Champion, and then 6,500 are in Elite. And what does this mean is there's just natural deranking. If someone below you on the leaderboard goes up, that means that you get pushed down and potentially out.
Dang, he has it out for Courage.
And this means for me that the players who are in Elite, Champion, Unreal have a bigger reason to grind to be at the top, because they fear for dropping out of that Unreal rank. And if they say make the qualification for FNCS Elite, that means that all of these players from Elite up to the top are going to be trying significantly harder, because they want to ensure they have a good game, creating higher quality matches that are much more closer to a tournament. Because right now, if you get into Elite, Champion, or Unreal, these games are still just pubs. Everyone's W keying. No one's necessarily trying to play it like a tournament.
Yeah, so like, if you guys watched the video I made last week spectating Unreal players, I'm going to try to make another one this week if I can get a game for it. But a lot of people were surprised with how low quality that game was. And that's kind of the reason. It's like very easy to get to Unreal, so the games aren't that stacked. There was a period in time where it was pretty stacked. Like after, it was super easy the first 2 days to get it, but like within the first 5 days or so, if you were in like those high ranks, it was pretty high quality games, and you would be fighting a lot of the top teams every game. Like, you would be fighting Cam Nutt's team, he's number 1. Prospering would be in those games, he's number 2. Like, half the lobby would be like people that I recognized, and it'd be like very high quality games. Whereas now, since it's been out for long enough and enough people have hit Unreal, it's not that stacked usually, and you saw that reflected in the spectating video I made.
Play for wins. They may get a couple of elims and then play slowly and not be as aggressive.
Like, look at Muzz here. He's using the breacher shotgun just so he can get in on people. That is not. That's probably not going to be how he would play if he like respected this lobby at all.
As you would in arena, but the quality of games are nothing close to what you're going to see in a tournament. And ideally, what I would like to see is, as players progress through the ranked mode, the games get higher quality and more similar to a competitive tournament. So take the bronze mode. Epic have actually done something really smart. They've actually put bots in the lower level ranked mode.
This is kind of crazy.
So say you were a legitimate bronze 2 player. I'm not sure if there even are any bronze 1 players. Apparently they can't be found on Fortnite Tracker. But as you progress through up into gold, there's becoming less.
So there's AI in ranked, and a lot of people, whether or not they care about ranked or care about competitive, the main thing they wanted to ranked for was no AI in the lobbies. And once you get to gold, allegedly there is 0 bots. I've seen people say that there isn't. That may have changed. Like, I saw people saying it early on. But yeah, even silver 1, half the lobby is bots. I thought about making a spectating bronze video. I know Cypher made one, but I had the idea before that. It's like not that unique of an idea, you know what I mean? But once I saw this, I didn't even want to make that video anymore, because like it would just be spectating a game full of AI for the most part.
And less bots, and the games get higher quality, there's better players. So for new
Which I
players,
guess is like how the game is anyways.
It's a steady and learnable curve from pubs. And then as you progress through the ranks, you get to gold, you get to platinum, you get to diamond. The games get harder and harder because the players are better, because they're also an equal rank to you. But not only this, players should be hoping to play for endgame more, meaning that by the time you get up into Elite, Champion, and Unreal, the games are definitely not going to be an FNCS quality by any
the heavy
means. But if
sniper
they have
one-shotting
some
walls.
resemblance of a moving zones, 20 people, for example, that is such a better rank system than what it currently is, which might be 5 or 6 people in the endgame. And all of this would become pointless if you can't drop out of Unreal like you currently can't. The main reason for this is because there's going to be services out there where players will be boosted up to Unreal. They'll pay money to play with a full trio of really good players, they'll boost them straight up to Unreal, and then they never have to play ranked again, and they can play all the tournaments they want. And even if they do play ranked, it doesn't matter because they can't fall out of Unreal. The result of this is that Unreal games have way worse players in them, and the quality of these matches absolutely plummets. You've also got to think that this is a problem that gets worse the more the season goes on. So
that's what I was saying about before. Like, the first week or so, Unreal games were pretty sweaty. After it had been out for a while, they definitely weren't as difficult, and it wouldn't be names that you recognized as much. And like, there's obviously some unknown players that are good for sure, but when half the lobby is like streamers and like Unreal leaderboard grinders that you recognize, it's usually a pretty like stacked lobby.
The more players make it into Unreal, the worse the quality of those Unreal games will be, because it's no longer a good matchmaking system. It's just whoever's in Unreal will queue with people from Unreal, because it'll be pros all the way down to people who just got carried to that rank. And this kind of brings me on to my next point, how you actually gain points. Now, firstly, there is no visual indicator in-game to either show your rank or to show what you need to do to rank up or what to gain, which is very confusing.
I feel like we've all been there. And then even, not only is there not a point system, there's not an indicator on screen that somebody is playing ranked and what rank they're in. Like, that's one of the things I said before where, like, yeah, it is season 0. So there's going to be improvements that are made for sure. I would be surprised if the system gets worse. Like, it'll probably only get better. But the fact that there's not an indicator on screen, I feel like is such like a miss, you know? Like, the only way you know if someone's playing ranked is if they have this urgent quest on screen. But even then, once they complete the urgent quest, that will be gone, so you won't know. Whereas arena, it had the person's points on screen, and then also every time you did an action in game, whether it was placement, whether it was kills, you got those points added up. Whereas like a lot of the ranking system in this game, or the ranking system now, just feels very random whether or not you'll gain points or not. Like, I was playing a game with my friend Maddie, and I was getting carried. I didn't really do anything that game. I think we had like 4 kills, 5th place or something, and she had all the kills. And I was a higher rank than her. She was a lower rank. And I got all the percentage and she got like none. You would think at the very least that both players would get the same percentage from the game. But if that's not the case, you would assume the person who's a lower rank would benefit more because they're playing in the higher ranked players' lobbies. And there was something in the announcement they talked about where, like, if a plat player kills a diamond player, they're going to benefit more from that, you know? Like, it would just make a lot of sense for the lower ranked player to benefit more. But, like, I did nothing. I was the higher rank, and I still got all the percent.
Play for placement. Do I go for elims?
It's just like a very weird system.
It's very placement heavy.
It feels very random.
So I tried to go for low elim games, get to like a top 5, and I lost rank. What seems to be the easiest way to get points is high elimination games.
Whereas, like, if there was an indicator on screen, you would know how you were doing, and then you would understand how to play to rank up. And it'll probably get better over time. Like, I'm sure they'll iron out the way the ranking up works, and it'll be more reflective of how you played in the game.
Again, just promotes more W keying and more fighting. Now, I understand why they don't want it to be so placement heavy. It would make sense. You don't want people getting just 0 elim thirds and playing with no guns like I would definitely do to try and make it up to Unreal rank. But right now, it does seem very punishing when you have a low elimination game, but you still place high into the top 5. So basically, the current format doesn't reward you for playing placement and trying to actually win the game. So if you try to play to win and then just come shy of that, say like a 2nd to 5th, and you manage to get no elims, it's just like a wasted game essentially in some matches. And this is where we get into some of the other issues, which is how it works on each individual.
And it's like a weird thing because that contributes to the lower game quality as well. So like you don't want it to be so placement heavy that people can just get to Unreal without fighting, like he said. But also, if placement isn't rewarded, then everybody is just playing ridiculously aggro, and then you have low quality games because there's nobody left alive in game. You know, it has to be somewhere in the middle. That way people respect like their potential placement points, you know, because if it's only kills, then people are just going to play super aggro and then it's going to be a dead lobby.
Region. Now, I obviously am EU, and a lot of my viewers are from EU as well, which, if you're not familiar with Fortnite, is the largest region. It has the most players, which means that the rank mode can work the best. When you start to go into some of these smaller regions that are around the world, you'll notice that things like queue times and match quality are significantly different. Now, last season, NA added a 3rd region, NA Central, to host all of the tournaments, so they're no longer be held on West or East, and it's all just into one central server. However, for ranked mode, you can queue into all 3 different servers, and this has split the player base that was already struggling with queue times in the previous ranked mode, Arena, into now 3 different servers, making it even worse. So unfortunately, I know a lot of people...
This is another decision that's just incredibly bizarre, and it's one of those things that, like, sure, it is a new system, but this could have been completely avoided, because, like, already at the start of this season, Epic came to the conclusion that NA should be central only, all combined on one server. And then a few weeks later, with the ranked system dropping, they undo that decision. There's NA East, NA West, and NA Central, all kind of cannibalizing the same player base. And so the queues are bad on all of them. Like, I had to play EU a lot of the time when I was playing ranked.
People won't be happy with this, but I do believe that the correct strategy going forward will be to combine all of the rank mode that you can only queue onto any central.
That should
will allow you much
be
higher quality games in all 3 of these solos, duos, and then squads, and then also into the 0 build modes, which ping doesn't really make that much of a difference in. In fact, right now, a lot of the 0 build players are just playing on Europe because they have a higher chance of getting a queue. Then there's other regional differences that you also just need to think about. OCE, the smallest region with often the largest difference in skill between the top and the bottom players, is incredibly easy to play ranked. Now, this kind of goes back to how squads are a pretty poor method of using for ranked, because if you get a squad of some of the best players in OCE, it almost doesn't matter who is in your lobby, you're going to be so much better than everyone else, meaning that it's very easy for teams like I've just seen X2 Twins, for example, play with 2 pros. Like, every game is going to be a 25 elimination win, meaning they're just climbing the ranks so much easier than a player would, say, on EU solo. And since the leaderboard currently is global, that means that some of these smaller region players have an advantage because their games are just significantly easier than some of the games on higher regions, which is one of the reasons why I would actually like to see more regional leaderboards and then also a world leaderboard, because it doesn't necessarily make sense.
Yeah, I feel like the regional leaderboards 100% make sense, I think, but also I feel like regional rank to an extent. And we've had this with the cash cups this season where you can only play one region. I feel like that would also fix a lot of the queue problems because everybody in NA would be playing NA Central. And then you would have like the top 500 players on NA Central that get Unreal rank. So it's like, I feel like regional leaderboard and also regional rank split kind of makes sense as well.
Sense to compare the two. This is, of course, assuming
I could
that
be
you
wrong
can
on
get
that,
queues on
I think
these
that would make
regions.
sense.
OCE, apparently solo queues are almost impossible after a certain period. Duo queues apparently take around 20 minutes, and squads apparently take around 10 minutes. And from what I've seen, solo queues in a lot of the regions are very, very rough.
And that's what I've heard as well. Like, I know people that play solo builds and they're Unreal, and it's like pretty impossible to find a game. And that is one of the reasons why like a lot of people want solo zero build ranked, and I just don't think it would. I think it would suffer the same fate. He's gonna compare the player count between builds and zero builds later on, but builds basically has double the amount of players that have played ranked than zero build does, and so zero build has half the players and only one game mode, and then even then queue times are atrocious. So if you took that already smaller number and split it between two game modes, I think it would, the queues would be even worse. On top of the fact that I think solo zero build competitive is just a very, very, very bad game mode. I think a lot of the fights just boil down to who sees who first, who gets first shot, and that makes the game very campy. If any of you have played the zero build solo cups, they're not it. Like, I think the Creed skin cup was solos, and everybody I know who participated in that said it was like the worst experience of their life. Like, it just wasn't really fun or skillful. Like, I think ideal game mode for zero build ranked would be like trios or duos. Probably trios or squads, but I think trios is the best for zero build competitive. And I think solos would far and away be the worst.
This is where it comes into another difficult dilemma, because the higher...
And I say that as someone who I only pretty much play solos, but like, even that being my favorite game mode, I can like recognize that it just doesn't make sense from a competitive standpoint, and that's fine. I like playing solo pubs. I don't really feel the need that some players have to play ranked. Like, I've had people comment on videos and say like they feel no motivation to play the game because they like playing solos, but there's no solo ranked. Like, I enjoy playing the game. The fact that there's not ranked or is ranked doesn't really matter to me that much, because ranked in itself, like, the games aren't that different and the queue times are atrocious.
The higher quality you make the games, the tighter you make the matchmaking. That means the longer the queue times are going to be. And in some of these smaller regions, it's just not possible to have high quality games that are run relatively frequently. As a fix to this, Epic have already shortened the queue times, but can make the game quality suffer. And that's where...
This is what I was saying earlier with Courage. Like, the first and second day it was out, the queues were like super loose, and that made it very easy for a lot of people to like flood Unreal.
Where I kind of go back to my top X percentage or top X players in Elite, Champion, and Unreal, meaning that if you're just below that in Diamond, you're going to be trying your hardest and playing high quality games to try to qualify for FNCS. If you're an Elite or Champion, you're going to be fearing that the players below you on the leaderboard are going to overtake you, dropping you out of the qualification, meaning you're going to try your hardest when it comes to ranked and play high quality games and not W key. And if you're an Unreal and don't care about FNCS, you're going to be grinding for the first place slot. So higher quality games overall. One thing I haven't touched on yet is zero build. Now, as you notice, when it comes to the build mode, there's 994,000 players, just over that are ranked and have played something that are tracked on this. But if you look at zero build instead, it's almost half of the...
This video is a little bit dated. It's like 15 for builds and like 700 for zero build. So it's like zero build is still about half or a little under half.
The players, and the rank distribution between them is very, very interesting.
And this has also gotten worse. Like I showed it earlier, it's pretty much just Diamond.
You can see there's a huge amount of players,
I guess it's similar
in the
to how it is
Bronze
now.
2 up until Platinum 1, and then there's a sharp decline after that. Now, in Diamond 2 and Diamond 3, you can almost not even see what the players are there at all, but it's 641 Diamond 2, 285 Diamond 3 players, and then as you hover over Elite and Champion, nothing pops up. There's such a small amount of players, I just assume that this is under 100 players each. But apparently, if you're in Unreal, you can't find a game if you queue with another Unreal player. The results of this are quite interesting. The number one zero build player right now is Camnuts, and at the start of almost every single day when I've checked back through his stream VODs, he's playing with a player that is on a brand new account and unranked to get faster queue times and get into games with lower level players. Now, if you're keen-eyed, you may think this shouldn't even be possible, because what Epic Games themselves said was, whilst in a party, matchmaking is based on the highest ranked player in the party. So
yeah, that's bizarre.
there appears to be a bug in the matchmaking system. And this isn't just
And you might be like, wow, that's so cheesy. They're just like getting easier games to like grind the leaderboards. And there is some validity to that, but it was the only way to play the game. I think this has been resolved a little bit. Either way, it should have never been a thing because of that description, but it was like the only way to get a game for a while. And that just, again, decreased the quality of Unreal games.
Cam that's doing this, the majority of the top zero build players are doing the exact same strategy, dueling with someone who is just on a brand new account. But they may also just understand there's a bug with the system and be doing this to get lower level queues, to get easier games, to climb the ranks faster. It also becomes a little bit more suspicious to me because I checked in Prospering stream and he often queues with other Unreal players and seems to get on just fine. Outside of the potential queue issues, the zero build ranked mode seems to have been well received. However, the ranked mode for the build mode, there's a lot to be desired for, in particular when it comes to the loot pool. For ranked, the loot pool is exactly the same as the public match loot pool. Historically, this has been a terrible idea as many unbalanced items come into ranked. However, right now, Epic Games
Hashtag Vault the Mech was trending so frequently when that was in the game.
To be making a slightly different direction with this. Rather than prioritizing things for pubs, putting whatever they want into that game mode, they seem to be making balance changes based on what is in ranked mode, and those ranked changes go into pubs. So the complete opposite of the previous thought process. It's clear they want as many players to play ranked and to get into tournaments as possible, and this creates an easy transition if all of the loot pools are the same. There's a couple issues that I see with this thought process. The first one is that things being balanced for competitive isn't necessarily that good for the pub and the casual players. Take the grenade nerf that happened last week as an example. They've been nerfed down to almost non-existent usage because in competitive matches, players could line them up.
This was a nightmare, by the way. So this is actually in chapter 1, I think. But either way, in chapter 2, season 1, it was squads FNCS, and grenades were in the loot pool, and you could carry 10 of them. And so you would box up, I think it was 65 meters away from another team. You would like ping their box, and then you and your teammates would open like this and all just throw grenades. And if you were the perfect distance away, the grenades would basically blow up as they were landing. And then the team getting naded, there was no way to avoid it. Like grenades should not be in comp at all. But yeah, it was wild.
Guarantee kills on players who had absolutely no counter to this. However, now they're just completely useless. The pub players don't even understand this strategy and they're confused. I've also seen similar comments when it comes to the heavy sniper nerf as well, even though I think that's a good nerf when it comes to the competitive.
Personally, I prefer a more balanced, like boring version of the game. Like will not shed a tear that grenades have been nerfed. Things like the lightsabers, I was never a fan of having them in the game. The Kamehameha and the Deku Smash, I didn't think it was as overpowered as people made it out to be in Zero Build, but it was certainly something that just could not exist, and that would be fine. Like, I definitely prefer a more balanced version of the game. And, like, the thought process with this, I've seen it in a lot of games, is that, like, put everything in competitive. That way, like, the more casual players can relate to it, and then maybe play it. But one, I feel like a lot of the people who are going to be interested in competitive are going to be interested in competitive regardless. Like, I feel like that's just, it's not, everybody isn't into comp, and that's fine. But also, even the casual players can understand that these items are, like, nonsense, you know? Like, I had, like, constant comments of people complaining about how OP the lightsabers were, or how annoying the Kamehameha and the Deku Smash were. Like, you could be a very, very casual player and still understand that those items were, like, annoying to play against, you know? So I really don't think they should be in comp, and I don't really think having the loot pools be different impacts people's interest in the game that much. Like, I feel like the people who are going to be interested in comp are going to be interested in comp because they like comp, and not so much the other way around.
Competitive side. So usually changes that are good for casuals are bad for the competitive scene, and changes that are good for the competitive scene are bad for the casuals. Yet the loot pools are exactly the same. The main concern I have with this is if the game gets too competitive. I never thought I would personally say that, and it becomes too much of a good system for ranked mode. Typically, these are boring metas for casual players, and one of the things that's really important for competitive viewership, for my own YouTube channel viewership, I know, and for tournament player base, is that the casuals are currently interested in the game. If there's not good collaborations, good fun items for them to use, I understand that they lose interest, don't want to play the game as much, and therefore, as a result, the entire competitive ecosphere struggles. So if you balance the game for the casuals too much, the competitive players don't like it, and ranked will suck. If you make it too competitive, ranked and competitive is is really good, then the casuals are going to be unhappy. It's a lose-lose situation, and I personally don't see a way that this can work in the long term, and the often solution to this is split the loot pools, but I also don't think that will work. Epic makes a lot of money from collaborations, and if you don't put those collaborative items like the ODM gear, for example, into tournaments and rank modes, that's less eyes on that product, meaning that collaboration is less valuable to them and they make less money from it, resulting in them being less likely to put more money back into competitive in prize pools and other events. So it's a bit of a dilemma. What do? Do you split the loot pools? Do you keep them together? I wish I had the answer for this, but I guess what we're going to have to see is over the next couple seasons, over the next year, will Epic Games be able to balance collaboration items in competitive to make them actually not completely broken like all of the previous ones really have been? Fingers crossed. I don't know, but the main thing they goddamn better do is add Siphon or I'm gonna lose my mind. Sick of killing people that have 10 HP. Just put it back in.
Yeah, I don't know why they took out Siphon. It's bizarre. I'm happy they lowered the mat count for pubs and you farm faster. I think that's great. And there's Siphon for mats, but also HP Siphon was just amazing. I never really understood why they got rid of it in the first place. The argument that was that it made people too aggressive, but I mean, with and without Siphon, you have games being super dead endgame in pubs no matter what. So yeah, it definitely makes the game more fun to play when you get HP back on kills, and it makes, like, I don't really play comp, but the most fun I've had in competitive, or the most memorable moments I've had in competitive, is like when you're super scuffed, and then you're just like staying alive endgame by the Siphon. Like you're just like getting a kill that 50 HP keeps you alive a little bit longer. You get another kill that like extends your life further. That's just like the most like fun and rewarding moments in comp for me. But yeah, that is gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys found this interesting, informative. The rank system is very, very, very flawed in many ways. And the biggest complaint I see people have on my channel, at least, is that there's no solo ranked zero build. But I think the addition of solo zero build ranked would just make a lot of the problems we talked about in this video even worse. Like the queues wouldn't be great. The games wouldn't be that much higher quality than pubs anyways. So I don't really think it's that big of a deal. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, subscribe if you like some more. The original video will be linked down in the comments below. His channel is comp oriented and he makes a lot of videos that are very detailed, like breaking down how certain teams do in comp, and it is very interesting to watch if that's something you're into. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.